King Arthur's Knights, Chapter 3, Part 2. When in the twilight Sir Launcelot awoke, he found himself on a straw pallet in a strange room, and he leaped up and went to a narrow arrow slit in the wall and looked out. Before him, for a great distance, was a black, watery land, with the sun sinking far away on the very edge, and the pools of the marsh were as if they were of blood. Then he beat at the door and called, but none responded, and for wrath he could have dashed the door down, but it was too stout, and he had no weapon, for his arms had been taken from him. When it was dark, suddenly it seemed to Sir Launcelot that the room smelled foul, as if he had been carried into the midst of the quaking marsh and was sunk deep in the slime and weeds of a pool. Then through the arrow slit he saw many strange lights come, dim and blue like the wild lights that dance and flit over the lovely marshes by night. But that which made him marvel was that these lights were two together, as if they were the eyes of evil things. And they came up to him with a breath that was cold and dank, and they seemed to peer into his face, but he could see naught of their bodies. The hair upon his head rose and his skin went cold. They pressed all about him, and to defend himself he struck at the eyes, but his blows beat only the air. Then suddenly Sir Launcelot felt sharp pains, as if small, keen knives had been thrust into his flesh at many places. The stabs increased in number and in pain, and Sir Launcelot beat about himself and ran to and fro in the narrow chamber to escape the evil eyes and the stabs, but it was in vain, and thus all night in much misery he suffered. When for sheer weariness he lay down and tried to close his eyes, the evil things would not let him, but ever they tore at him and stabbed him. He was in anguish of mind more than he could bear, and for all his thought, he could not think of any way to fight against the evil powers which followed and tortured him wherever he ran. But at dawn they fled, and then the door of the room opened, and a damsel appeared, and in her hands was a manchet of sour bread and a beaker of water from the ditch of the moat. The damsel was evilly clad in rags, and seemed like a scullion maid. "These," she said, "my mistress bid me say shall be your food until you die." "Damsel," said Launcelot, "tell me who hath brought me here, and used me so evilly." "It is Queen Morgan le Fay," said the damsel, "and the three witch queens, the Queen of North Gales, the Queen of the Out Isles, and the Lady of the Marshes." "I doubt not then that they would slay me," said Launcelot, "but why hate they me?" "It is for this," went on the damsel, "that you did slay Sir Caradoc, the brother of the Lady of the Marshes." "Alas," said Sir Launcelot, "there is no pity for me, and none of my dear friends shall learn of my shameful death." "And so that you should suffer much ere you are slain," went on the damsel, "they sent in the night the Coranians, the marsh fiends, to torture you. Thus will they do until you die, unless, Sir Knight, you are a knight with a stout heart and a good fighter, and will do me justice. If you will be ruled by me, and will give me a promise, I will aid you." "Damsel, that will I grant you," said Launcelot, "for this would be an evil death for a knight, and full of terror hath been this night from the foul things that have beset me." "I may not stay further now," said the maid, "lest they think I tarry over long. But by evening I will come again." The day passed, and twilight came, and Sir Launcelot was adread for fear of the night. But anon the damsel came secretly to him, and said, "Now must you promise me this, that you will release my father, whom Sir Tarquin, Sir Caradoc's brother, hath kept in his foul dungeons since I was but a little child. And all his lands did Sir Tarquin rob from him, and me he gave as a kitchen slut to Morgan le Fay, and evilly have I been treated, who am a good knight's daughter. Now will ye promise to free my father?" That I will do, my poor damsel, said Launcelot, and I will, God aiding me, slay this Sir Tarquin as I slew Sir Caradoc his brother. So at the dead of night the damsel opened his door, and with the keys that she had stolen, she opened 12 other locks that stood between them and the postern door. Then she brought him to his armor, which she had hidden in a bush, and she led forth his horse, and he mounted with much joy, and took the maid with him. And she showed him the way to the convent of white nuns, and there they had good cheer. Then on the morrow she led him to a thick forest with many hills therein, and anon they came to a fair ford, and over the ford there grew a tree, and on it there hung many good shields, each with the device of some knight thereon. And Sir Launcelot was astounded to see the shields of many of King Arthur's knights hung there, and on a bole of the tree there was a basin of copper. Now, said the damsel, I have brought you here where is Sir Tarquin, the mightiest knight that ever was found, as men say, and was never overmatched by any. And in his dungeons are many poor knights and my dear father, Sir Darrel. Now strike the bassoon with the butt of your spear. Sir Launcelot beat such strokes that the bassoon burst asunder, and then he was aware of a great knight riding on a black horse. This is he, said the damsel, and now God aid you. What needest thou, Sir Knight? Cried the other. To try my strength on thee, cried Launcelot, for thou hast done great despite and shame unto many good knights of the Round Table. Art thou of that caitiff crew of ladies' knights? Sneered Sir Tarquin. Then I defy thee. Thou hast said enough, replied Launcelot. They put their spears in their rests and came like the wind against each other, and either smote other in the middle of their shields, so that both their horses' girths broke. Then, lightly avoiding their beasts, they came at each other with great fierceness, and so fared for 2 hours, feinting and striking, and so heavy were their blows that each bled from many wounds as they stood. At last, for sheer breathlessness, each leaned upon his sword. Now, fellow, said Sir Tarquin haughtily, answer me these questions I shall put to thee. Say on, said Sir Launcelot. Thou art, went on Sir Tarquin, the biggest man that ever I met with, and like one knight that I hate above all others, and I would liefer be thy friend than thy foe. Now, therefore, I will give up to thee my captive knights if thou wilt tell me thy name, and if thou art not the knight I hate most. Willingly, said Sir Launcelot, but what knight hatest thou above all others, and why? It is Sir Launcelot du Lake, cried the knight, for he slew my brother Sir Caradoc of the dolorous tower in the marsh, who was one of the best knights living. And ever I have sought this Launcelot, and slain and maimed many good knights, and imprisoned others in the quest. To slay that fellow I have made a vow, and him I would meet above all others. Ha, laughed Sir Launcelot, and I am the first thou hast met whose love thou would liefer have than my hatred? Well, I will have ye to wit that I am he ye seek, Sir Launcelot du Lake, and thy brother was an evil knight and an oppressor. What sayest thou? Said Sir Tarquin. Thou art he I seek? Then, Launcelot, thou art unto me most welcome as ever was any knight, for we shall never part till one of us be dead. Then they ran at each other like two wild boars, lashing and dashing with their swords and shields, so that sometimes in their fury they slipped together on the grass, which was wet with blood, and fell striking at each other. But at last Sir Tarquin waxed faint and tried to avoid Sir Launcelot's blows, and his shield sank low, for his arm was very weary. Seeing this, Sir Launcelot leaped upon him fiercely, and got him by the banner of his helmet, and thrust him on his knees, and slew him at a stroke. When he had rested a while, he went to the castle of Sir Tarquin and released all his prisoners, and was rejoiced to see the damsel find her father alive. He caused the old knight to have his lands again, and bade the others that should betake themselves to the court of King Arthur to be cheered and comforted, while their possessions, which Sir Tarquin had robbed of them, should be given back to them. Then fared Sir Launcelot further afield, glad exceedingly that he had escaped the foul plots of the four witch queens, and also that he had vanquished the evil Sir Tarquin. Then he rode a great while in a deep and dark forest, and as he followed the winding ways, suddenly he saw a black hound before him, and its nose to the ground as if seeking a scent. He followed the beast, and ever she looked behind her. Soon she left the forest and picked her way through a great marsh, and Sir Launcelot followed, until in the wide distance he saw a little hill with trees upon it, and in the midst a ruined manor. The hound went toward the ruin, and Sir Launcelot followed. The wall was broken down in many places, and the path all overgrown and weedy, and as he came to the courtyard before the house, he saw the fish ponds choked with weeds, and the horse block green with moss, and in the great doorway grew charnel and hellebore, and the spiked hemlock waved and split its seed in the wind. The windows hung by their hinges, and the green moss crept down the wide, wet cracks in the wall. But the dog ran over the drawbridge into the house, and Sir Launcelot gat from his horse and tethered it to the post beside the horse block, and so went across the bridge, which was full sodden and worm-eaten, and bent beneath his weight. Coming into a great hall, foul with many rotting leaves, he saw a table in the midst thereof, and on it was a knight that was a seemly man, and he lay as if he were dead. And the black hound licked his wound, and by his side there was a lovely lady, who started up, weeping and wringing her hands, and she said, "O knight, too much evil have you brought to me." "Why say you so?" said Sir Launcelot. "I never did harm to this knight, for hither did this hound lead me. And therefore, fair lady, be not displeased with me, for grief is upon me for your sorrow and your sadness." And we'll pause here, and we'll continue with this story in the next video. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Thanks so much for watching. I love you guys. As Tigger says, ta-ta for now.